House come to order. Pray by the chaplain.
Let us pray. Gracious God, we give you thanks for this day. As we gather this noon, we begin with hearts open to your goodness, with minds seeking wisdom, with eyes wide open to the challenges facing our state. Bless us, Holy God, with a reverent sense of your presence, that we may be at peace, if only for today. It's so easy to fall into very human ways of thinking, to think that we hold the truth and others are misguided, that we are pure, others stained. We have good intentions, but others are devious. In this time, restore our sense of proportionality, that we are fully but only human, that we know only in part, as if we see in a mirror but dimly. So mindful of our limitations, let us be kind to one another, open to the goodness in those who are different, sincere rather than suspicious. On this day, may we be articulate and brave as well as kind and open, guard our tongues and our integrity. Where we have been confused, grant us your guidance. Where we have been distraught, grant us your comfort. Where we have been weak, grant us your strength. For this day and the days to come. Amen.
Amen. Members, our chaplain for today is Reverend David D. Colby from Central Presbyterian Church right here in St. Paul, Minnesota. Please remain standing and recite the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Clerk will take the roll. A quorum is, the clerk will close the roll. A quorum is present. Clerk, read the journal for the preceding day.
Journal of the House, 87th session, 2012, 84th day, St. Paul, Minnesota, Monday, March 12, 2012.
There are no objections. Further reading of the journal will be dispensed with, and the journal will stand as corrected by the chief clerk. Hearing no objections, the journal stands as corrected by the chief clerk. Comparison reports. Copy of this order of business has been placed on each member's desk. If there are no objections, the motions will prevail. Hearing no objections, the motions prevail. Reports of standing committees and divisions. Copy of this order of business has been placed on each member's desk. A minority report has been filed on House File 2083. We will act on all other committee reports first, and then take up House File 2083 later. If there are no objections to the committee reports, with the exception of House File 2083, hearing no objections, reports are adopted.
House File 2083, Davids, for the Committee on Taxes, to which was referred House File 2083, an act relating to education, reported the same back with the recommendation that the bill pass and be re-referred to the Committee on Ways and Means. Minority report. I, the undersigned, being a minority of the Committee on Taxes, recommends that House File 2083 do pass with the following amendments. Carlson moves that the minority report on House File 2083 be substituted for the majority report and that the minority report be now adopted.
Members, if you could please take your conversations to the alcove, or better yet, the retiring room, so that the motion can be heard. I call the member from Hennepin, Representative Carlson, to your motion.
Mr. Speaker, first of all, I'd like to request a roll call vote.
Representative Carlson requests a roll call. Seeing 15 hands, there will be a roll call on the motion. Member from Hennepin, Representative Carlson.
Mr. Speaker and members, the minority report that is before you closes loopholes to pay off the school shift. The report closes corporate tax loopholes for offshore corporations and uses the revenue to permanently pay off the school shift. Under the House File 2083, as it was reported from committee, there is no plan to permanently pay off the shift. When the shifts are paid off under the minority report, then the money would revert to the general fund. Loopholes closed in this bill are the foreign royalty subtraction FOCs, the unitary tax havens, foreign partnership income, it raises $194 million in fiscal year 13 and $152 million in fiscal year 14, $157 million in fiscal year 15. So the main point to remember about the minority report is, one, that we provide revenue to pay back our school districts, and secondly, we do have a plan in place then to pay them back. So we have both provided the revenue as well as a long-term plan to make sure our school districts are paid back for the shift that currently stands at 60-40. So members, I would appreciate your support for the minority report.
Discussion to the Carlson motion. The member from Washington, Representative Dean.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members, and thank you, Representative Carlson, for bringing forward your minority report and for your willingness to address some of the fiscal issues that we have within our schools. This is in response, members. For those of you who may have not have been here last evening, Representative Garofalo is moving forward a bill that does the same thing, paying back the school shift. We believe it's a good idea. You believe it's a good idea. You believed it was a good idea to raise taxes in the last discussions around this. We thought that we could bring Minnesota's fiscal house back in order without doing so. We certainly still believe that that is the case. We believe that moving forward with Representative Garofalo's bill is the right idea, and it's moving forward, and the future looks bright if we continue on this path. And with that, representatives from both sides of the aisle, I welcome the discussion, welcome the help from the other side of the aisle. But we are moving forward with Representative Garofalo's plan, and with that, Mr. Speaker, I move to table the minority report.
Representative Dean moves to table the motion on minority report on House File 2083. This is a non-debatable motion. Member from
Point of parliamentary inquiry.
State your point of parliamentary inquiry, Representative Carlson.
Mr. Speaker, just a few questions of the chief author of the bill.
Representative Carlson, the motion to table is a non-debatable motion.
I understand that these are points of parliamentary inquiry, and I have both Mason's and the rules that deal with the subject before me here if we want to get into the rules discussion. But I am entitled under both House rules and Masons to raise points of parliamentary inquiry of you, Mr. Speaker, and you can defer those to the chief author of the bill if you choose, which is usually the kind of the custom and usage, if you will. So I probably was a little negligent in not addressing you first, but going directly to Representative Garofalo. But I do have a few points then, Mr. Speaker.
State your point of parliamentary inquiry,
Yeah.
Representative Carlson.
My point is that have you, as a result of bringing this bill forward, dealt with any of the issues of cash flow and the information that we've been provided with MMB, Mr. Speaker?
Mr. Speaker.
Representative from Washington, Representative Dean.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Point of parliamentary inquiry.
State your point of parliamentary inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, under what rule of either within House rules or Masons is Representative Carlson interjecting at this point?
Representative from Hennepin, Representative Carlson, could you cite location of other Masons or House rules that you're bringing your point of parliamentary inquiry?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, if you look at in Mason's page 116, section 149, number 3, the point that I was making earlier, a parliamentary inquiry may be directed to the presiding officer or an inquiry may be made from one member to another. That's what I was attempting to do first. While these may involve questions of concern to the members, they rarely present any question to be determined by the body. So the point is that I can raise questions about the bill under Masons, and the question that I'm raising under my parliamentary inquiry is if we're dealing with any of the cash flow issues, being that the bill that would be before us if my motion doesn't prevail is dealing with one-time funding. So, Mr. Speaker, that's my parliamentary inquiry.
Okay, Representative Carlson, and you said section 116, 149-3. 3.
Get a roll call. Yeah.
Advice, Mr. Speaker?
Representative Carlson, your question is then to the body, the point of parliamentary inquiry. I'm prepared to take advice. The member from Scott, Representative Biskins.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if I could turn your attention to page 192 of Mason's, section 250. I think you have a very definitive description of the use of a parliamentary inquiry. And under that, the purpose of a parliamentary inquiry is request for information from the presiding officer with respect to procedure concerning some question before the House. I think it's very specific that a parliamentary inquiry, both in Masons and in custom and usage on this floor, have been to ask questions of procedure and not as general questions of the presiding officer or members themselves.
And Representative Carlson, in reviewing the sections, I am going to choose not to make a rule on parliamentary inquiry. We're on the motion We're on the motion to lay on the table the minority report. Member from Hennepin, Representative Carlson.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to request a roll call on the motion to table.
Representative Carlson requests a roll call. Seeing 15 hands, there will be a roll call on the motion to lay on the table. It's a non-debatable motion. The clerk will take the roll on the motion.
Mr. Speaker, point of parliamentary inquiry.
State your point of parliamentary inquiry, Representative Thiessen.
Thank you. I was just wondering on this bill that would make priorities for this state of us respecting our kids instead
Mr.
of
Speaker?
Supporting our.
The member from Washington, Representative Dean.
I haven't
Mr.
finished
Speaker, this motion, a point of parliamentary inquiry.
State your point of parliamentary inquiry, Representative Dean.
What is the motion before the body?
Representative Thiessen, if you could cite either in Mason's or House rules the section that you're asking parliamentary inquiry under.
I'm asking, Mr. Speaker, I'm stating a question to you under Section 250 of Mason's of Parliamentary Inquiry on my question is if this motion were to succeed, if people are to vote yes on this motion that would not allow us to have a debate on whether we should close corporate loopholes in order to fund our schools and fund our kids and give them a better education, what's the ultimate impact of a yes vote and a no vote on that motion?
And Representative Thiessen, I will defer ruling under Mason's. Clerk will take the roll on the motion.
Wait, Mr. Speaker, could you provide us the advice on that?
Representative Thiessen, if you didn't hear me, I said I will not rule on your point of parliamentary inquiry.
And Mr. Speaker, if I may, point of parliamentary inquiry.
I'd already asked for the roll to be.
Mr. Speaker.
I've already asked for the roll to be taken, Representative Thiessen. Clerk will take the roll. The clerk will close the roll. The member from Ramsey, Representative Moran. Representative Moran votes no. There being 72 ayes and 57 nays, the motion to lay on the table is adopted. Second reading of House Files.
Mr. Speaker.
The member from Hennepin, Representative Winkler.
Mr. Speaker, under House Rules 3.14, motion to reconsider, I'd like to move to reconsider the Dean motion and request a roll call.
Representative Winkler moves to reconsider the motion to lay on the table. He's requested a roll call. Seeing 15 hands, there will be a roll call on the motion to reconsider. The member from Hennepin, Representative Winkler.
Mr. Speaker, parliamentary inquiry.
State your point of parliamentary inquiry, Representative Winkler.
Mr. Speaker, is the motion to reconsider a debatable motion?
The motion to reconsider is a debatable motion, Representative Winkler.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, even though you don't want to vote on it or your leadership doesn't want you to vote on it, the Carlson motion and minority report is your actual opportunity to do something right. It's your opportunity to fix a problem that we've created. We've borrowed $2.4 billion from kids in this state. There is no plan to pay it back. There is a small down payment offered by Representative Garofalo in a bill, but it doesn't even come close to solving the whole problem. And in fact, it does so by making our state's financial situation considerably worse. It shouldn't be so hard to actually take a vote on an issue that is good for your constituents. It shouldn't be that hard. Very few of you have foreign operating corporations in your districts. All of you have school kids. All of you have school districts. We owe all the kids in those districts who attend public schools, we owe all those kids in your districts money, and we have a way to pay for it. We have a very easy way to pay for it by closing corporate tax loopholes, members. And this is not a partisan issue. I don't know why you wouldn't want to vote on an issue that is nonpartisan. Just this morning, Representative Davids introduced a tax bill that included changes to the foreign operating corporations that raise money for the state, raised revenue for the state in order to pay for priorities. That was in Representative Davids' bill this year. Earlier this session, on February 8th, all Republican members of the Property Tax Committee voted to repeal the foreign operating corporations loophole. They all voted to remove it. Now, it was spent on a priority that they had, which in that case was a marriage tax issue. But the point is, it wasn't untouchable. It was something that you could do. You've already crossed the threshold. Republicans in the tax committee have already crossed the threshold and have acknowledged that they are willing to close corporate loopholes if there are priorities for that money. And I would ask you, what higher priority could we possibly have in the state besides paying the kids back the money we took from them? I know that Representative Garofalo likes to talk about who voted for what when, who shifted what when, but that really isn't the issue. The issue is whether or not you have a plan to pay for it going forward, whether you have a plan to pay those kids back. And so far, without the minority report, without a consideration of the minority report, there is no plan. You have no plan on the table to make good on those IOUs that we have given to the school kids of Minnesota, and it's time that you owned up to it. It's time to take a vote on it. You don't want to take a vote on it. You don't want to decide, you don't want to be on record maybe of choosing corporations over kids. And I can understand why you'd want to do that, since almost none of you have corporations in your districts that benefit from this, but all of you who have kids in your district who would benefit from being paid back. So Representatives Runbeck, Crawford, Barrett, Doubt, Detmer, Lemure, McDonald, Peterson, Wardlow, you've already voted this year to get rid of the FOCs. Chair Davids has already brought forward a bill that raises revenue by changing the FOC provision. There's no reason why you can't take the next step, which is actually use the money that you want to raise and give it to the kids who deserve it. Make good on the IOU. We shouldn't be hiding behind that vote, members, and that's why we absolutely should reconsider the Dean motion to table. We should take this up. We should let our constituents know. We should let the kids of Minnesota know whose side we're on. Whose side we're on. Are we on the side of corporations that shelter money in Grenada and Bahrain, or do we want to be on the side of kids in Brainerd who need the money to go to school? It's pretty simple. Corporations who shelter money overseas in the Cayman Islands, or kids right here in Minnesota. And you shouldn't be afraid to take that vote, members. So I would urge a green vote on the motion to reconsider. I believe, Mr. Speaker, I requested a roll call, but I'm going to
roll call has been requested and already acknowledged, Representative.
Okay, so Mr. Speaker, members, we are absolutely supposed to actually vote on tough issues. Hiding behind a motion to table on a party line vote so you don't actually have to consider the question of kids versus corporations is a sorry excuse for legislating. And just because your leadership doesn't want you to take a position doesn't mean that you can't stand up and decide that whether you want to favor kids or corporations.
A roll call, the member from Hennepin, Representative Carlson.
Mr. Speaker, point of parliamentary inquiry.
State your point of parliamentary inquiry, Representative Garofalo.
Mr. Speaker, I'm reviewing my Mason's Manual of Legislative Procedures, and on page 239, section 340, the subtitle is, "The motion to lay on the table may not be reconsidered." And Mr. Speaker, I'm seeking guidance on whether the Winkler motion to lay on the table, the reconsideration of the motion of the table, is actually in order.
1 minute, Representative Garofalo. Representative Garofalo, in checking with the Chief Clerk, Representative Winkler had cited House rules in reviewing Mason's manual. You are correct that the motion to reconsider is not debatable. A roll call being the motion to lay on the table cannot be reconsidered, and I was incorrect when Representative Winkler stated House rules, not Mason's rules. So the question before the body reoccurs then. The motion to reconsider, Representative Winkler, is out of order. I was incorrect. You have my apology. The question now before the body reoccurs on the adoption of the majority report on House File 2083.
Mr. Speaker, parliamentary inquiry.
State your point of parliamentary, Representative Winkler.
Mr. Speaker, does Mason's manual trump House rules in order of precedence?
Representative Winkler, the House rules are silent on it, so Masons would yes.
Mr. Speaker, parliamentary inquiry.
State your point of parliamentary inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, the words in the House rules are, after a question is decided either in the affirmative or the negative, a member who voted with the prevailing side may move to reconsider it. Mr. Speaker, that says that when a question is decided, a member may move to reconsider. That is not silent on the question on whether or not a motion to reconsider, a motion to lay on the table is debatable. It's actually very clear. It says a question is decided. After a question is decided, the motion to lay on the table is a question. It was decided in the affirmative. I voted with the prevailing side, and I may move to reconsider it. That's what House rules say. They're not silent. That governs over Masons. The Garofalo parliamentary inquiry / point of order / impromptu ruling from the chair is not in order, Mr. Speaker. House rules are clear.
Representative Winkler, that is my ruling. You are allowed to appeal the ruling of the Speaker. The member from Hennepin, Representative Thiessen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Point of parliamentary inquiry.
State your point of parliamentary inquiry.
Would it be proper under the rule that Representative Garofalo cited, Section 340, to move to take it from the table? And is that debatable?
That would be the proper motion, Representative Thiessen, and that is not debatable either.
Okay. So what, Mr. Speaker, point of parliamentary inquiry?
State your point of parliamentary inquiry, Representative Thiessen.
So where are we on the, so can you just tell us again where we are procedurally?
Sure. After the motion to lay on the table was approved by the body, the question reoccurs on the majority report on House File 2083.
Mr. Speaker.
Representative from Hennepin, Representative Winkler.
Mr. Speaker, I move to rule I move to overrule the ruling of the Speaker and appeal to the body.
Representative, Representative Winkler, you need to cite the ruling.
Mr. Speaker, you ruled that Masons on the issue of motions to reconsider is Trump's House Rule 3.14. That was your ruling, and I'd like to move to appeal the ruling of the Speaker to the body and ask for a roll call.
Representative Winkler moves to Representative Winkler, although I did not state a point of order, I did say that that was my ruling. If you would ask for that point of order, it would have been my ruling if you would have asked for it, assuming that you would have done that, and then appealed the ruling to the Speaker, and then requested a roll call. We would be where we are right now. Representative Winkler has requested a ruling, appeal the ruling of the Speaker and requested a roll call. Seeing 15 hands, there will be a roll call on the appealing of the ruling of the Speaker. Member from Hennepin, Representative Winkler.
Mr. Speaker, members' advice. Just all you have to do is pull out the yellow book. It's on page 15. It's number 3.14. All caps, motion to reconsider. The sentence is, after a question is decided, either in the affirmative or negative, a member who voted with the prevailing side may move to reconsider it. Members, the question before the body was to lay the minority report on the table, the Carlson motion on the table. The question was decided. It was decided in the affirmative. A member, me, I voted with the prevailing side. I voted green, and then I made a motion to reconsider it. It's pretty simple. All you have to do is read the language. And the House rule says that that motion to reconsider is in order. The Speaker has said that based on Masons it's not, but there's a conflict between Masons and House rules, and our rules govern. Masons is an advisory document. It's a set of best practices, good ideas, but the rules that we adopted as a body are those that govern us. And even when rules are uncomfortable, even when rules might require you to actually vote on an issue like corporations versus kids, whether to make good on our debt to school kids, even when those uncomfortable kind of votes come up, you can't hide behind Masons when House rules say that you have to take the vote. So members, I would urge you to vote to overrule the ruling of the Speaker and get down to actually taking a vote, letting people know whose side you're on. And if you want to hide behind it, you better find a House rule that isn't, or I'm sorry, you better find a rule in Masons that isn't trumped by House rules. And if you want to hide, I guess you have to be more clever than that, because you're doing it in violation of the House rules that we all have adopted.
Advice for the body. Member from Washington, Representative Dean.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Winkler, I would direct the body to our House Rules 3.10, precedence of motions. The first one is to fix the time of adjournment. The second is to adjourn. The third is to lay on the table. And the fourth is for the previous question. We state in our rules that the first four motions are not debatable. What Representative Winkler is trying to do with reconsidering this is to go against our House rules so that he can have a debate. And I think we will have a debate, Representative Winkler, on the House floor on how we deal with the shift, how we deal with the finances, and it's a good debate to have on the House floor. Our crack staff has given me several instances of all the times that you, Representative Winkler, voted to table things and supported your side when we did that. And we understand that. We get it. That we have these rules for a reason, that we don't have to debate everything in real time all the time, Representative Winkler, according to our own rules. And with that, members, we don't need to find parliamentary tricks to bring debate onto the floor. We're going to have a lot of time for that, Representative Winkler, Representative Thiessen. We look forward to that debate. Minnesota looks forward to that debate in the months and the hopefully weeks ahead. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I would move to table the Winkler reconsideration.
Representative Dean moves to table the Winkler motion to appeal the ruling of the Speaker.
Point of parliamentary inquiry, Mr. Speaker.
State your point of parliamentary inquiry, Representative Thiessen.
When this bill, when this majority report comes back, is the majority going to allow us to actually offer this amendment on the floor? And you've moved in the past not to allow us to have this amendments like these under certain rules, and so I just was wondering what your intention is, whether you'd allow us to offer the minority report as an amendment to this majority report, so we can actually have the debate that Representative Dean claims he wants to have.
Representative Thiessen, I'm not going to rule on your point of parliamentary inquiry.
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr.
State
Speaker.
your point of parliamentary inquiry, Representative Thiessen.
When someone asks for a parliamentary inquiry, when a member asks for parliamentary inquiry, is that member asking for a ruling or just advice?
Well, Representative Thiessen, that's up to the member asking.
So, Mr. Speaker, I wasn't asking on a point of order. I wasn't asking for you to rule in any particular way. I was making a point of parliamentary inquiry under our rules, whether when this majority report, when it does come back to the House floor, whether this minority report will be in order as an amendment to that bill.
Representative Thiessen, I'm not going to give advice or a ruling on that.
That seems to be a fairly consistent technique, Mr. Speaker. We would like a roll call on this motion.
Representative Thiessen has requested a roll call. Seeing 15 hands, there will be a roll call on the motion to table.
Mr. Speaker, parliamentary inquiry.
State your point of parliamentary inquiry, Representative Winkler.
Mr. Speaker, is a motion to adjourn a debatable motion? I'm trying to find one.
Representative Winkler, it is not a debatable motion. The Chief Clerk will take the roll on the motion to table the ruling of the Speaker. Clerk will close the roll. Mary voted no. There being 71 ayes and 60 nays, the motion to table is approved. The member from Dakota, Representative Garofalo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would request a roll call on the adoption of the majority report on House File 2083.
Representative Garofalo has requested a roll call on the adoption of the majority report on House File 2083. Seeing 15 hands, there will be a roll call. The member from Stearns, Representative Hosh.
Mr. Speaker, point of parliamentary inquiry.
Stage point of parliamentary inquiry, Representative Hosh.
Mr. Speaker, have you been up to the third floor above the House chamber?
Representative Hosh, I will not be answering the question.
Okay. Mr. Speaker, point of parliamentary inquiry on the third floor above the chamber.
State your point of parliamentary inquiry, Representative Hosh.
On the third floor above the chamber, there's a easel that has 6 guidelines, 1 through 6, and it starts with the Minnesota Constitution and it ends with Mason's Manual. Can you explain to me what those 6 guidelines are for?
I will not, Representative Hosh.
Point of parliamentary inquiry.
State your point of parliamentary inquiry, Representative Hosh.
Mr. Speaker, who would I ask to make a determination on what precedents or what guides this House under its procedure?
Representative Hosh, you can consult the Chief Clerk. You can consult either majority or minority leaders.
Point of parliamentary inquiry.
State your point of parliamentary inquiry, Representative Hosh.
Mr. Speaker, is it not the Speaker of the House who makes rulings and provides advice to or guidance to the body on how we operate?
Representative Hosh, on rulings, the rulings of the Speaker can be approved after the Speaker has taken advice from the body, but not on hypotheticals, Representative Hosh. Seeing no further discussion, the Clerk will take the roll on the adoption of House File 2083 report.
I can try it because it's a final action on a report, right?
The Clerk will close the roll.
I did.
There being 72 ayes, 59 nays, the committee report is adopted.
Mr.
Second reading
Speaker?
of House Files.
Mr. Speaker?
Member from Hennepin, Representative Thiessen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
What
I move
purpose do
under
you rise?
House Rules 3.14 of my intent to move to reconsider adoption of this report for 2 days.
Representative Thiessen.
Motion to reconsider, he wants 2 days. First paragraph, page 15.
You can just move reconsideration again. It's in order.
Always trying to block it.
Did you move intent to, or did you just move to reconsider? It's final action.
But I don't want to get into a debate on Thursday whether it's been 2 days or not, because it's too
Reconsider the final action.
Representative Thiessen, your notice is upon final passage, and we have not gotten to the bill yet. This is just the committee report.
Mr. Speaker, point of parliamentary inquiry.
State your point of parliamentary inquiry, Representative Thiessen.
Rule 3.14 in the second paragraph refers to a notice of intent to move reconsideration of a final action of the House on a report or other subject of official action. It seems to me, and it also specifically refers to final action on a bill, but separate from that is final action on a report. And so it seems to me that the language of the bill would encompass both of those, and that this motion is proper. So maybe I need to, I guess to get to that, we need to appeal the ruling of the Speaker since you've already ruled. So I would appeal the ruling of the Speaker and ask for a roll call.
Representative Thiessen, could you state the rule again? I don't know. I don't believe the Chief Clerk heard the ruling and the section that you were appealing the ruling of the Speaker, because I don't believe I made a ruling on your motion.
So, Mr. Speaker, I moved under 3.14 of my intent to move. I voted on the prevailing side on the motion on the passage of the report that we just took, and then I am giving intent. I actually, there's not even a motion that's required. I'm actually just giving intent that I plan to move to reconsider that report, the vote on that report, for 2 days from now, as is allowed under the rule, so that we would take up a motion to reconsider the vote we just took on the report this coming Thursday during our session. And I think actually there's not even a vote required on that under the rule. It seems to me the clear language of the rule says that a member who voted on the prevailing side on a final action on a report, and this was a final action on a report or other subject of official action, may notice that intent to reconsider. You can't write at the end of session. There's an exception for that, but right now we're allowed to do that. So I think that and then I heard the Speaker make some kind of an order which I didn't quite understand. So I guess maybe we need some clarification. I think right now as it stands, the Chief Clerk can't forward this bill onto it, has to hold the bill at the desk for 2 days until my motion to reconsider, which is on Thursday, this coming Thursday.
Representative Thiessen, your notice was correct. You at first stated that you move. So we are now on second reading of House files in the order of business.
Mr. Speaker, point of parliamentary inquiry.
State your point of parliamentary inquiry.
Okay, so I stated I moved, but then, and you made some kind of reference. We hadn't moved on to the next order of business, and then I did give my notice. So I guess my point of parliamentary inquiry, am I correct in understanding that the Chief Clerk will be holding this bill until we take up my motion for reconsideration on Thursday?
Representative Thiessen, since we've not had final action on the bill, the notice to hold the bill is not in order. We've not had final action on the bill. The bill is not leaving the body, we've not had final action on the bill.
Mr. Speaker, point of parliamentary inquiry.
State your point of parliamentary inquiry, Representative Thiessen.
Then why does the rule, if that's the rule, it seems like, why does Rule 3.14 not just refer to final action on a bill, but also on a report or other subject of official action? And this is an official action of the House of Representatives. It seems that there's also no point of order has actually been raised on this, but I guess you answered my point of parliamentary inquiry. So it seems to me, Mr. Speaker, that the plain language of the rule would require that you take up my motion for reconsideration before any other action is taken on this report this coming Thursday. And if the bill, I guess, moves on to Ways and Means, we'll have to raise that point, raise that issue later. But it seems, Mr. Speaker, A point of parliamentary inquiry.
State your point of parliamentary inquiry, Representative
Mr. Speaker,
Thiessen.
have you made a ruling on this issue? I don't understand that a point of order has been raised, so I guess I don't know what my next step procedurally is to do, since no point of order has been raised for you to rule on.
I have not made a ruling, Representative Thiessen. You're correct.
Mr. Speaker, point of parliamentary inquiry.
State your point of parliamentary inquiry, Representative Thiessen.
So is your intent that notwithstanding Rule 3.14, this bill will move on to another committee, or are you going to follow the language of Rule 3.14 and hold for my motion for reconsideration on Thursday?
Representative Thiessen, to your point of parliamentary inquiry about the notice, the ruling I would make is that it following House rules. It does not follow House rules, and that it is improper notice. We're on second reading of House files.
Mr. Speaker, parliamentary inquiry.
State your point of parliamentary inquiry, Representative Winkler.
Mr. Speaker, has the House taken final action on the report for House File 2083?
No, we have not, Representative Winkler.
Mr. Speaker, parliamentary inquiry.
State your point of parliamentary inquiry, Representative Winkler.
When does the House take final action on a committee report?
Representative Winkler, we've taken final action on the committee report. Final action on the bill will be when it is passed by the body.
Mr. Speaker, parliamentary inquiry.
State your point of parliamentary inquiry, Representative Winkler.
Mr. Speaker, you just said that we have taken final action on a committee report. And Mr. Speaker, under Rule 3.14 in the second paragraph, it says, when a member gives notice of intent to move to reconsider final action on a report. So has the House taken final action on the report or not? Because you've said two different things now.
We have taken final action on the report, Representative Winkler.
Mr. Speaker, parliamentary inquiry.
State your point of parliamentary inquiry.
Would a notice of intent to move to reconsider final action on the report be in order?
Please state it again, Representative Winkler. I didn't hear the last part.
Mr. Speaker, would notice of intent to move to reconsider the final action of the House on the report be in order?
Representative Winkler, the ruling, if Representative Thiessen would have asked for it, my ruling was that notice of intent was not in order. So the motion would not be in order then.
Mr. Speaker, parliamentary inquiry.
State your point of parliamentary inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, within the last 25 seconds, you have told us that the House has taken final action on the committee report. The rule says that a member can give notice when the House has taken final action on a report. You said we've taken, your answer to my inquiry was that we've taken final action. The rule says that the notice is in order when final action on the report has taken place. It has taken place according to your own statement, so I don't understand how the notice would not be in order if it were given.
Representative Winkler, we have not taken final action on the bill. On the report, yes, but not on the bill.
Mr. Speaker, parliamentary inquiry.
State your point of parliamentary inquiry, Representative Winkler.
Mr. Speaker, the words of the rule are, quote, when a member gives notice of intent to move to reconsider the final action of the House on a bill, resolution, message, report, or other subject of official action. And then the rule continues. You have said that the House has taken final action on the report. The notice that I have asked for is whether notice is in order of a motion to reconsider the action of the House on the report, not on the bill, on the report. Is that notice in order?
And Representative Winkler, I have said that it is not. That is my ruling, Representative Winkler.
Mr. Speaker.
State your point of parliamentary inquiry, Representative Winkler.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order.
Mr. Speaker, a notice of it is now in order for a member to give notice of intent to reconsider final action on the report. Mr. Speaker, notwithstanding your order, the point of order is that you are not following the rule and not permitting members to follow the plain language, the plain meaning of these rules. They mean nothing. We could have a ceremonial burning of the rules if your statement that we've taken final action on the report has occurred, yet a notice to reconsider that final action is not in order, despite the fact that the rule says that the member may give notice of intent to reconsider once the House has taken final action on the report. You're contradictory. I mean, you're not even squeaking by, Mr. Speaker. It's not even close. It's direct contradiction between the words out of your mouth and the words in the rules. So, Mr. Speaker, I think the point of order is that a motion to reconsider to give notice is in order. And I hope that you will allow the minority leader to give proper notice.
We're on second reading. Representative Winkler, we're on second reading of House files.
Mr. Speaker, point of parliamentary inquiry.
State your point of parliamentary inquiry, Representative Thiessen.
I think a point of order was raised, and so I was just wondering if a ruling had been made on that point of order.
Representative Winkler raised a point of order. Representative Winkler.
Mr. Speaker, I already made the point of order. You didn't rule on it. The point of order is that it is in order for a member to give notice of intent to reconsider final action of the House on the report.
Mr. Speaker.
1 minute, Representative Falk. I'm going to consult with the Chief Clerk.
Point of parliamentary inquiry. He has to give advice on.
I find the Winkler point of order not well taken.
Mr. Speaker.
The member from Hennepin, Representative Winkler.
Mr. Speaker, I move to appeal the ruling of the Speaker to the body and have advice.
Representative Winkler moves to appeal the ruling of the Speaker, has advice for the body. Member from Hennepin, Representative Winkler.
Members, I know that rules sometimes are a little bit uncomfortable, especially when you're trying to avoid voting on a tough issue like kids versus corporations. But the minority leader has given notice of intent to move to reconsider. The Speaker has said that the House has taken final action on the report. The Speaker has directly through his rulings and his statement has directly contradicted himself and the rules. And members, I don't like to have to appeal the ruling of the Speaker in a situation like this. We have to govern ourselves, and there's some basic majority rule premise here, but the fact is that it's exactly contrary. The words out of his mouth are exactly contrary to the rules in the book and his own ruling. So members, we have to take the Speaker's ruling, overturn it, and allow Representative Thiessen the opportunity to give notice as is required under the rules.
Advice. The member from Olmsted, Representative Liebling.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, with apologies to my colleague here who was standing first. But members, advice to the body. Members, we have a constitutional system, and we're all very proud to live in a community, in a nation where we put rules. We say we're a nation of laws, not men and women. We are a nation of laws. We have before us a very clear rule that was passed by this body, a very clear rule which the Speaker is violating. If we do not adhere to the rules that were passed by this body, then we lose our legitimacy. If we are to have government by law, not men, we are government. We have to follow the law, our own law that we passed. To allow the Speaker to simply ignore what's clear and plain in our rules is wrong. It undermines our legitimacy as a body and everything that we do going forward. So members, I would urge you to overturn the ruling of the chair. If you don't like the rules that you passed, then pass different rules. But you can't simply pass them and then ignore them because they're inconvenient. That is wrong. Let's not go down that road. Please, members, do not vote to uphold the ruling of the chair.
Member from Swift, Representative Falk.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Advice. Mr. Speaker, the words are very clear here, and while sometimes the language is often complex or confusing, I think the notice and intent has been very clear. Mr. Speaker, I do believe that you've erred in your judgment. Now, I respect that, but we have a solution. We could actually move to go and amend these rules. We could change them. Of course, it would take 90 votes to do so, but I think if the majority caucus were willing to work with the minority, we could maybe go and help to go and amend these rules to would be at least more amenable. But given the way it's written, clearly the judgment ruled by the Speaker is not accurate. It's not following up to the intent of the rules. So the advice to the body, Mr. Speaker, is that this is a very dangerous precedent we're traveling down when we don't have to follow our own internal rules that have been voted on, rules that were voted on by the majority caucus. And if that's going to be the way we're going to conduct ourselves, Mr. Speaker, how do we expect to conduct the business of the state? I think it's very telling when a simple issue to talk about whether it's fair to close corporate tax loopholes and pay back our kids should be a motion that and should be an issue that we are willing to debate in this body in front of the people of Minnesota, not behind motions and procedures which, even under the most glaring examples, are being violated by this body.
The member from Washington, Representative Dean.
Advice, Mr. Speaker.
State your advice to the body.
Mr. Speaker, if I was going to raise to a point of parliamentary inquiry, the point of parliamentary inquiry would be this. What more could the minority do today to slow down, to stop, to gum up the works of Representative Garofalo's bill as it moves through the process, as he's marching it through? What more could they do? They brought up a minority report to get a vote on that, to try to position. This is our idea. That's a great thing. Let's bring forward some debate. Let's bring forward some ideas. You didn't bring that up in an amendment form. You didn't bring it up in a bill form. That's okay. Minority report's fine. That's fine. But you didn't do that. Then the motion to table was reconsidered. We're arguing the rules. The point of parliamentary inquiry would be, what more could the minority do to slow down paying back this shift that Representative Garofalo is doing? And I don't think there could be a whole lot there. That's what the point of parliamentary inquiry could be. What more could they do? What more parliamentary tricks could they find to gum up the works to slow this bill down? Instead, let's debate the Garofalo bill. If you think it's a bad idea, it's a bad idea. You just voted against it. Representative Thiessen, you voted for it. Thanks for voting to pay the kids back. The rest of you voted against it. That's disappointing. But let's move this bill forward procedurally through the committee process, through the floor process, and stop these games. Support the ruling of the Speaker.
Member from Hennepin, Representative Thiessen.
Thank you. Advice to the body. I hope we do have a full debate on this, Representative Dean, on your proposal to drain the reserve fund to use one-time money to pay back the shift. We did offer the amendments twice in committee. One of my main concerns is when this comes back to the floor that Representative Holberg is going to rise to a point of order on this exact bill and say it's out of order as an amendment. And so we actually won't be able to have the debate because you'll be using the rules once again, just as you're doing today, to hide behind to avoid debate because you do not want to debate whether we should be protecting corporations or whether we should be protecting kids. You're on the side of protecting corporations. I understand that. We're going to be on the side of protecting kids. And so I think the ruling of the Speaker that he just made is just one more example of bending the rules, not playing by the rules in order to avoid that important choice, because we really do have a choice today, and it's an important choice and a simple choice for all of you. You know, we actually can be serious about paying back the IOUs that we owe our kids and to fully pay them back, or we can continue to protect tax breaks for wealthy corporations. We can choose to make our kids the priority or make corporations the priority. That is our choice today, and it's the choice that you're going to be making and voting on once again, as you voted on a couple times today. We're also making another kind of choice today, and I think this is important. You know, are we going to make a fiscally responsible choice, or are we going to play the same shell games that plagued your last budget, moving money from one account to another in an election year effort to cover your tracks from last year's budget that ended the shutdown that you brought upon the state of Minnesota? So, you know, as a reminder, when we arrived in January 2010, we had a 90-10 shift. That was what the law was, and you borrowed nearly $3 billion from our schools. And you're having a little buyer's remorse. I understand that. And I think we all agree it's time to repay those IOUs, but it's really a difference about how we do it. You know, you plan again to use one-time money. You don't pay our schools back in full. We're still on the hook for $2 billion. Our plan actually has a plan to pay back the schools in full. Your plan drains a huge portion of our budget reserves. Again, just as you did before, it leaves our state billions in dollars in debt and a significant risk to have to force ourselves to do additional short-term borrowing, just like your last budget. Again, you're going down the same path. Our plan actually preserves that rainy day fund and puts in a fair funding source to repay our schools and our kids. You know, your plan, what you're trying to do is protect these CEOs of these big corporations who are hiding their money in Aruba, the Bahamas, Bahrain, all these other places. We're actually just asking those companies to play by the same rules as Main Street small businesses across this state. This is an easy choice. We should overturn the ruling of the Speaker. Then we can actually reconsider this report that is Representative Garofalo's majority report. Maybe we can actually at that point take up the minority report and have the actual vote on this choice, because I'm afraid that you're not going to allow us to actually have this debate. You're going to ram ahead with your preference for corporations over kids, and that's just not right, and it's not what Minnesotans want us to do.
Member from Hennepin, Representative Winkler.
Mr. Speaker, I'd request a roll call.
Representative Winkler requests a roll call. Seeing 15 hands, there will be a roll call on the motion. Representative from Hennepin, Representative Winkler.
Mr. Speaker, I just requested a roll call because I think we need an opportunity for members of the public to understand whether Republicans are willing to vote on their values or whether they're going to hide behind the ruling of the Speaker and hide behind their party leaders.
Seeing no further, the member from Dakota. Seeing no further discussion, a roll call being requested. The question before the body is, shall the decision of the Speaker stand as the judgment of the House? Yes vote supports the Speaker. A red vote rules against the Speaker. The clerk will take the roll on the appeal. The clerk will close the roll. Representative Cornish votes aye. There being 71 ayes and 60 nays, it is a ruling of the body that the Speaker's ruling stands. Second reading of House Files.
Second reading House File 1517.
Second reading.
Second reading House File 1670.
Second reading.
Second reading House File 1819.
Second reading.
Second reading House File 1899.
Second reading.
Second reading House File 1994.
Second reading.
Second reading House File 2160.
Second reading.
Second reading House File 2308.
Second reading.
Second reading House File 2470.
Second reading. Second reading of Senate Files.
Second reading Senate File 1567.
Second reading. Introduction and first reading of House Files. Following House Files have been offered introduction today. Chief Clerk, report these House Files and give them their first reading.
Introduction and first reading of House Files 2824 through 2839.
First reading House Files 2824 through 2839. Messages from the Senate.
Message from the Senate. Mr. Speaker, I hereby announce the passage by the Senate of the following Senate file herewith transmitted. Senate File 1551, 1780, and 1844. Signed, Kel R. Ludeman, Secretary of the Senate.
First reading of Senate Files.
Introduction and first reading of Senate File 1551, an act relating to electrical inspection. The bill has been referred to the Committee on Jobs and Economic Development Finance. Introduction and first reading of Senate File 1780, an act relating to higher education. The bill has been referred to the Committee on Higher Education Policy and Finance. Introduction and first reading of House File 1844, an act relating to natural resources. The bill has been referred to the Committee on Environment, Energy, Natural Resources Policy, and Finance.
Calendar for today. Call the member from Washington, Representative Dean.
Mr. Speaker, I move the calendar of the day be continued.
Representative Dean moves that the calendar of the day be continued. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion prevails. Call the member from Stearns, Representative Banyan. For what purpose do you rise?
Point of personal privilege.
State your point of personal privilege, Representative Banyan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This evening, members, coming to your desk now, a flyer for St. Cloud area evening at the Capitol. After a busy day here with a little extra excitement, figured it'd be a nice time for us all to get together. St. Paul Hotel, 5 to 7 tonight, sponsored by the St. Cloud Area Chamber of Commerce. Appreciate seeing you there. Thank you.
The member from Sibley, Representative Gruenhagen. For what purpose do you rise?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Point of personal privilege.
State your point of personal privilege.
I have the pleasure to introduce my two granddaughters who are here today. One whose birthday is Allison Winter. Do you want to stand, Allie? Wave to the group. She's 11 years old and she's a Republican. Now, my other granddaughter Jasmine is here. My other granddaughter Jasmine is here also, and my daughter Leah Winter and my wife. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. They got their looks from their mother.
Motions and resolutions are a copy of the non-controversial motions at the House desk and online. If there are no objections, we will take action on these motions first. Hearing no objections, the motions prevail.
Leaveley moves that House File 1888 be recalled from the Committee on Health and Human Services Reform and re-referred to the Committee on Health and Human Services Finance.
Call the member from Olmsted, Representative Liebling, to your motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'm making this motion on behalf of Representative Clark, who's not here today, and I understand that the chairs of the two committees are fine with the motion.
Discussion to the motion. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The motion prevails.
Swazinski moves that House File 2816 be recalled from the Committee on Environment, Energy, Natural Resources Policy and Finance and re-referred to the Committee on Ag and Rural Development Policy and Finance.
The member from Lyon, Representative Swazinski, to your motion.
Mr. Speaker, I've spoken also with both of the chairs of the committees, and they are fine with this move. Thank you.
Discussion to the motion. The member From Dakota, Representative Hansen to the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would Representative Swedzinski yield for...
He will yield. Representative Hansen.
Representative Swedzinski, I looked at House File 2816, and it appears to deal with environmental funding. I'm just wondering why does this need to go to the Agriculture Committee?
The member from Lyon, Representative Swedzinski.
Mr. Speaker, Representative Hansen, I believe the bill is related to agriculture with also grazing. I wanted the bill heard in front of the Ag Committee first and then move it on to environment rather than the other way around.
The member from Ramsey, Representative Hansen.
Mr. Speaker, would Representative Erdahl yield for a question?
He will yield. Representative Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Erdahl, I don't know if you have the bill in front of you, but it deals with funding for areas under your jurisdiction with the Outdoor Heritage Fund. And is it correct that a bill could be transferred from the Environment Committee to the Legacy Committee without going through the floor?
Member from Meeker, Representative Erdahl.
Mr. Speaker, Representative Hansen, I believe that it could.
Member from Dakota, Representative Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Erdahl, if you'd yield for another question.
He will yield. Representative Hansen.
Representative Erdahl, do you intend to hear this bill in the Legacy Committee, seeing as that it does deal with legacy appropriations?
Member from Meeker, Representative Erdahl.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Hansen, if it deals with legacy appropriations, yes, I would like to see it in my committee.
Member from Dakota, Representative Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Further discussion to the motion. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion prevails.
That's it.
Announcements. Announcements. Member from Washington, Representative Dean.
Mr. Speaker, I move that when the House adjourns today, it adjourns until 4:30 p.m. Wednesday, March 14th, 2012.
Representative Dean moves when the House adjourns today and adjourns until 4:30 p.m. Wednesday, March 14th, 2012. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion prevails. Member from Washington, Representative Dean.
I move the House do now adjourn.
Representative Dean moves that the House do now adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The motion prevails. The House stands adjourned until 4:30 p.m. Wednesday, March 14th, 2012.